And I know Colm Tóibín, the Irish novelist, talks about novelists, good novelists, needing to be monsters, that you're prepared that nothing is sacred and that you're prepared to go there and tell other people's secrets if it's in the service of a good story. How do you feel about that, Damon? Are there subjects that you would just say, you know what, that's not my story to tell, or I don't want to blow that secret, even if you find a story dragging you in that direction? You know, are there things that you would say they're off limits, or do you also, like Tóibín, say, you know what, I'm just going to have to go there because that's the story is paramount and the narrative is paramount in this?
Yeah, that's a very tricky question. You know, in an early novella of mine called Small Circle of Beings, and incidentally that title, Small Circle of Beings, refers to a family unit. I did discuss things that were very personal to me, namely my being ill as a kid and the really profound effects that that illness had on our family. It effectively broke up my parents' marriage, amongst other things. And I am probably because of my age, I didn't feel the need to discuss it with my family or to get their permission. And I sort of disguised it a little bit by changing people's genders and changing the setting. I don't know, I very, very naively assumed the family wouldn't notice or mind, but in fact, some family members did notice and did mind very much. And it was upsetting, for obvious reasons, to them and to me. To such a degree that I think now I would hesitate to go there again. I recently wrote a piece for the Times Literary Supplement, which incorporated a sort of chunk of early family history in which my mother and my sister featured, and I did feel I ought to get their permission before publishing. And if they had either of them said, no, they really would rather I didn't, I would have had to pull back. But that's an individual choice, you know. I mean, Graham Greene talks about the writer having to have a splinter of ice in the heart in order to really write about reality. And I respect that too. I understand what Colm is talking about. I just maybe lack the requisite ruthlessness at this point.
And Xiaolu, do you have a sliver of ice in your heart? I mean, you're a very brave writer, I think, when it comes to sharing some of the innermost thoughts of yourself and also your interactions, very intimate interactions with other people. I mean, how do you feel about that idea?
Plenty of ice and harshness. I feel like, you know, I guess in Damon's case it's not typical, you know, but I don't know what's typical for any writer. I guess for me, it was natural. The first two books so close to my life. I remember, you know, that I think the first confrontation with a family on full scale is really when I was writing my first novel called 20 Fragments of a Ravenous Youth. And I wrote in Chinese when I was in Beijing very fast. And I also, actually, same time I was writing another novel called The Village of Stone, also in Chinese. Actually, it's two books. One is recording my village experience with my grandparents and early sexual experience. And the 20 Fragments, that novel, I was doing at the same time. It's recording my experience in Beijing as a young artist. And I think the two books were published almost same time. And that was the first time I think my parents completely realized how, I guess, impossible, you know, I don't know what's the word, you know, the friendship would continue, especially between me and my mother. But I think now they both passed away. I guess it's, you know, it's almost like a writing is a process of liberating yourself from the trouble you had. But on the other hand, it's confronting in the most, in the deepest way, you know, the unsaid situation, the unsaid trouble between you and your family. But again, come back to your chosen family, as Damon said. I think that's that's the only real family, you know, I felt, especially alone came to Europe. And I was drifting around quite a lot, you know, the first 10 years was drifting between Britain and Germany and France, and I couldn't decide where to settle down. And then the age forced me to settle down eventually in London. And then, so the chosen man, and then eventually, when I had a child, when I had a baby, then that was the moment I asked myself again that you are making this biological family, through reproduction, and that's again, it's almost like a dangerous idea to do. What are you doing? Reproducing what? Again, but then, you could never reproduce anything in a way because the structure is so different. You're so ruthlessly away.